My reality is a product of my perception. Let's write that down. My reality is a product of my perception. But the thing is, my perception is a product of my beliefs. Therefore, my reality is a product of my beliefs. So when they say that there is no such thing as reality, some people do say that. There's a theory that everything is a dream and there's no actual reality. In the context of the way we understand law of attraction, it is true in the sense that reality is whatever you perceive it to be. Stella, come here. Come here. Come here. Okay. For one person, it is absolutely 100% real that this person is an absolutely wonderful person. And for another individual, it is absolutely 100% true that this person is not a nice person. There are case studies where witnesses to an event have sworn that they saw this, and to them it is absolutely real. And other people at the same event saw it completely differently. So what we see is a result of our perception, and our perception is controlled by our belief systems. For example, I remember those words from Superman cartoon that I used to watch when I was growing up. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Superman. And that is interesting because for someone who does not believe that a human being can fly, when they see something in the air, they're going to think it's either a bird or a plane, or another object that they think can fly, but not the thing that they think cannot fly. And this is why when people see things that they don't have evidence for in their belief system, they call it a flying saucer or a UFO, unidentified flying object, because they just can't figure out what it was that they saw. And the reason they can't identify it is because they are thinking from the logical part. They're thinking from their mind. All the information that they have collected is a product of what is stored in the mind. But it's the heart, the soul part of us, that is above the mind, which has clear information. So it's like when you see a bird sitting on the fence or the pavement or somewhere, and you know that that's your grandmother or your grandfather or your parents or someone that you know who's made their transition trying to communicate with you, right? I had that experience a couple of years ago where I had orbs follow me while I was driving at night. And in that context, it was up to me what reality I assigned to those orbs following me while I was driving. I could have said, oh, this is something evil that's following me. I could have said, oh, this is a flying a UFO. I could have said, oh, this is a some sort of a monitoring device. Or I could have said, that's my mom and dad wanting me to know that they are watching over me. So depending on my belief system. Now, somebody who lives in fear of what other people might do to them, they're going to see a monitoring device or a UFO, because that is what their belief system is, that there are energies out there, that there are people around there or forces around there who mean harm. And that is significant in the sense that it points out where they are on the emotional scale, and where they are on the emotional scale exposes their belief system. So what is real to one person can be totally unreal to another person. And so the reality that we live in changes when we change our belief system, because our beliefs change our perception. So let me explain to you why this is important. This is important because our bodies are built to respond to fear by running away from it or fighting it. They're programmed that way. So the first thing you do is you run, and if you can't run, then you fight. But when you are fighting or you're running, you give control over to the subconscious mind. Because when you're running, you can't think of where to run or how to run. You have to give up control of your mind to the subconscious. So the subconscious regulates everything when you have that response. The same thing happens when you are cornered and now you need to fight. When you need to fight, you don't utilize your conscious mind. The moves that you make are unconscious. They were programmed into your subconscious mind by your consciousness. You learned how to fight. You learned a couple of tricks. But after that, you no longer pay conscious attention. It's your subconscious. So the problem is that the subconscious, so the conscious and subconscious are living in the mind, and we can relinquish subconscious control by taking manual control, which is what I call manual control. So this is your autopilot, which is your subconscious, and this is your manual control. Now, subconscious control in a situation where your safety is threatened and you have to run from the lion is a very good thing. Because if you stood there and you started evaluating your options, you wouldn't have enough time to run. So it's a good thing that you relinquish control to the subconscious, and then the subconscious will take you to safety. Okay? So the quality of your programming then emerges because your subconscious responds to the environment and kicks into an autopilot mode. So that's a very good thing. It saves us in many cases. It performs a really good function. But the problem is that we can get the same result by trusting, by moving into the heart instead of moving into the subconscious. The subconscious is, you know how they say that love and hate are two sides of the same coin? Well, the subconscious mind and the heart are just a curtain apart. You lift the curtain, and from the subconscious, you can easily step into the heart. Okay, now the important thing about this, and this is why we are able to go up the emotional scale. So from the subconscious mind, we take back control into the conscious, and then we do the work to move up the scale, and we then code that programming or save that programming in the subconscious. So now the subconscious starts getting programmed and knows what to do automatically when we go down the emotional scale. So the subconscious now learns the 4-step process and is able to do it for us without our conscious engagement. Now, here's the point I want to make today, is that when we needed to have that fight and flight response, giving control to the subconscious mind was a very good thing. But in today's world, we go into fear. So way back in human history, we did not go into fear unless our physical well-being was threatened in some way. Now, our physical well-being may not be threatened, but our emotional well-being is threatened in so many ways. Listening to the news threatens our emotional well-being on a daily basis. There are things that we have created in our mind that threaten us on a daily basis. Some people are afraid of the other people they live in the same house with. They are mortally afraid of these people. So what happens is you start living in fear, and when you live in fear and when you spend most of your time in this realm of emotions that are anger and revenge and fear, your subconscious mind has control because you are in that fight or flight mode all the time. And when you are in the fight or flight mode, your subconscious mind is dominant. And that is because it functions as that part of you that is supposed to make you run or fight. So you literally have to take manual control and tell yourself that I don't need to either fight or run. Because where am I going to run away from if the thing that's making me unhappy is my thought? Right? And who am I going to fight if the fight is inside me? And this is why Abraham says, you take yourself with you wherever you go. Oh my God, maybe that should be our affirmation. I take myself with me wherever I go. So you see, we must take back manual control when we are in these vibrational states, lower down on the emotional scale. We must take back manual control from the subconscious mind and step into the conscious mind here, because the automatic switch is to step into the subconscious mind, and then our behavior and the way we act and respond towards the world is not controlled by our consciousness, it's controlled by the subconscious. When we sit down and we consciously, that's the operating word here, we do the 4-step process, we are taking control away from the subconscious mind and returning control to the conscious mind, which then soothes our fear and helps us go up the emotional scale where we no longer need the subconscious mind to be in control. But slowly, as we spend more time over here, the programming, we have to change our programming, because the fight and flight programming does not apply the same way in today's world. It just does not make sense for the way humans live their life these days. In the old days, many thousands of years ago, if you saw someone with physical characteristics that were different from you, you felt threatened and you ran or you fought that person. These days, we can meet people from other ethnicities, other skin colors, other languages without feeling threatened that way. We don't have to run and we don't have to fight. So We literally have to reprogram that programming that has been handed down. Now, how is it handed down? When they talk about cellular memory, it is not memory that is stored in your brain or in your genes. That memory is the vibrational memory that you inherit because of being in your mother's womb. Because when a child is in the mother's womb, it learns the mother's subconscious mind. It learns that programming because of its connection with the mother. So as the mother reacts, the fetus is learning how to react. Now, when the fetus is born and starts using their own logic, they have a choice. Even inside the womb, the child, the embryo, has a choice. And the choice is, do I become a sponge or a duck? And if you decide that you're going to be born a duck, fantastic. And if you decide that you're going to be born a sponge, there's a lot of work to do. And then ducks, I was born a duck, but I became a sponge. And then I realized that I was a sponge and made a conscious decision one day that I did not want to be a sponge. I did not want to be like my mother. But at first, I wanted to be like my mother. And being like my mother meant becoming a sponge. What does that mean? A sponge is a person who gives over control to the subconscious mind when they are spending time over here. A duck is a person who does not relinquish control to the subconscious mind. That's all. See how it all comes together? A duck is an individual who retains awareness and conscious control of their thought process so that they don't stay here. It's all linked, guys. It's all of this stuff is linked. Scale first. So here we are on the emotional scale. This is joy and love. Worry line and despair. So in the context of what we are talking about today, if we are in any of these emotions, we have a fight, we have an automatic fight or flight response. And this fight or flight response is always controlled by the subconscious mind. And it's a good thing that it is controlled by the subconscious mind. Because when you're being attacked by a lion or a tiger, you can't stand there and say, how many options do I have? Right? You have to act immediately, and your subconscious mind takes over control. So when you are in the lower half of the emotional scale, your subconscious mind has control. It overrides the conscious mind. Here, you can also be on autopilot here, but the autopilot over here is not a fight or flight response, because you can reprogram your subconscious mind to not have those old responses. So when you reprogram, and this is what we do when we start using law of attraction, we reprogram our subconscious mind to stop behaving with the fight and flight response. That's it. So from here, we want our subconscious mind to have a loving response. Because in our present day circumstances, We don't need to fight and we don't need to run. We can stand where we are and have a loving response, and that loving response will fix everything. And the way for us to reprogram our subconscious mind so that it starts having a loving response is by using the 4-step process, which, if you are not familiar with it, is in the book. It's in all my books, but Thrive is the book where I describe it in detail with the diagrams. And it is the process that we use in order to go from this fight or flight response into a love response. And when we come to everything from a place of love, then our life keeps getting better and better. Now, going back here, what Abraham says, and I absolutely believe it to be true, is that when you have jumped out of the aircraft without a parachute, now you need the fight or flight response. Abraham says, if you are in the middle of a fight, you've already gone into the fight. So someone's hitting you, you give control over to your subconscious mind so that it can save you. You don't sit there and start meditating to go up the emotional scale. You don't sit there and evaluate your options. You fight back or you run away. So when someone is in mortal danger, being chased by a rapist or an axeman, you have to give control over to your subconscious mind, because you are back there where you need to have a fight or flight response. So that is when shit hits the fan and it's everywhere, and you have to now take action. There's no time to do emotional, vibrational energy work. There is no more time to do emotional energy work. To go up the emotional scale, you have to act. It's okay to give up control to the subconscious mind and have a fight or flight response. It's okay if my health has already gone bad. I am now at a stage where doctors have handed me a diagnosis. I have to now step into this mode. First, right? And part of that is giving up. Part of the fight and flight response to a situation is giving up. So you're cornered by the tiger. You ran from the tiger, you couldn't get away. Now you're in a corner and the tiger is right there. You fight it. And then you give up, because you can't fight it. So you just give up, it's over, and you can come back in a new body. In the context of the life we live today, is that still applies. So this is how difficult decisions are made. Here I am, I'm in a relationship where I am physically and mentally abused all the time. So I am living my life in the fight or flight response. In the end, I give up and I walk away from that relationship. I give up. And then I start over again. And now when I start over again, I can reprogram. I have an opportunity to reprogram. Nicole, I have an opportunity to reprogram myself so that the next time when I'm in a relationship, I do not encounter the same behavior and I don't act the same way. So this is why reprogramming our subconscious mind, which is something that Lillian is doing such a phenomenal job of just now. Because the more you do the 4-step process, it becomes automatic. And when it becomes automatic, now the 4-step process is embedded inside your subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind will automatically do the soothing process for you and do the appreciation process for you, but you can still give up, because after doing a 4-step process on something and it's still not changing, you give up. And when you give up the resistance. And when you give up the resistance, you automatically go up the emotional scale. So